In today's video, we're going to take you back in time where I share with you an awesome Packard Bell CD Collection box. Say that 10 times fast. And I'll take you down a trip down memory lane where we look at some old games and software that I used to play around with as a kid. Let's join me on this journey now as we learn about this software. Well, the intro was took me a few takes, but this really is a trip down memory lane. I really enjoyed this collection, and for those of you that probably remember, if in like the early to mid 90s, probably even late 90s as well, a lot of us might have had Packard Bells or similar companies, but for me the memories were with Packard Bell, and I always remember, I think we had about 3 of them in the end over a space of sort of 10-15 years, and I always remember they all seemed to come with lots of software and shareware and games, and I think that's why I just loved them, because I think we had it as well with our Amstrads, or some of them anyway. But I remember these especially because by this point games were becoming a bit more interesting and stuff like that. But I'm just going to take you through this collection box, and for those of you, put in the comments below what sort of games you remember playing on your Packard Bells. Obviously some of my favourite games I still play to this day are things like CivNet, Need for Speed, Warcraft 2, Age of Empire 1 and 2. That was sort of era, Red Alert. But let's go through what's through this collection box. So I'm going to open this now. Dun, 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 dun. And I have no idea what the order is. I've purposely, and I'll just skip over the ones I didn't bother with. So the first one is Oceans. I don't know if you can see that. Microsoft Oceans. And this was a brilliant bit of software. I actually bought this box especially to replay this, because I can't remember where my original copy of this is. It's in one of the family's garages probably somewhere, though I did look high and low. I was convinced I had it in my house a few years ago, but anyway, this is a great piece of software. It's just back in the days of CD-ROM where you would click and videos would pop up and all this sort of stuff. But as a kid I always found ocean life fascinating, because I was a little David. And I used to find boring things interesting, as I used to say, things like space and oceans and stuff. But this was awesome because, coming from a background of somebody that was very dyslexic, especially as a kid, I wasn't very good at reading. So I loved the fact that it played music, little cartoons popped up, there's lots of videos that explained what everything was. And I used to just explore through the world of Oceans. And I seem to remember you had some, what were they called? They were just like characters, and each one had its own journey, its own story, and you could follow them on their journey as well if you wanted to. And they were quite cool as well. But I used to love and I used to always look for like the storms or the, like the great whites, and I was always fascinated by the size of the blue whale and stuff like that. Anyway, I could probably do a whole video on how much I enjoyed Oceans. Perhaps I'll do that, but but for now, Microsoft Oceans, you hold a small place in my heart. I'm Dave from DOS Byte, and why not check out our Facebook community where we have over 400,000 members sharing their retro games and computer setups. If that sounds interesting to you, go and check it out. You can also support the channel here by liking and subscribing, and check out affiliate links all in the description. What are you waiting for? Like and subscribe. Share your great retro computers and games. My first encyclopedia. Here it is. If you can see that, I'm just sort of seeing if you can see it. This was a cool little game. Again, another typical CD-ROM type program software as you used to get back in those days, and there wasn't really much to it. But as a kid, it blew me away. It was just this big tree with lots of cartoons and characters, and again, it was basically a mini encyclopedia. So you'd click on something like a tree or something, and it would tell you all about different trees, and you'd go up. And I think at the top of the tree, it talked about space, which from a very early age, as I explained earlier, I always loved space. So this was a really, another reason to look that up. And I seem to remember if you went under the tree, I can't remember what that was now. It was all about plants and animals and all this sort of stuff. My director's wandering around the studio at the moment. Come back. But anyway, this was a cool little software. I don't think I probably ever spent more than an hour on it at a time, but it was just cool. And again, it had different characters and guides and stuff that just made learning fun. That's what I liked about it. It wasn't like school where you were just copying textbooks and bored. It just made learning fun. And I think even from a young age especially, I've always enjoyed learning as long as it's fun. But I think we can all agree with that. But I really enjoyed that. This is Magix, which is quite funny because I use Magix now to edit these videos. Movie Edit Pro, I believe it's called. But this is actually the Music Maker, which is my first introduction to the Magix softwares. And I think this comes with, no, this is basically just a Music Maker. I can't remember if I actually played this version. And the reason I say that is because I had multiple versions. And I think the first one I used was with my Packard Bell, which was the last one that we had. I think that's right. You are talking like over 20 years ago. But I used to like all the music makers. I don't know if you remember that, well, some of you might have had one at school. I remember in music we had, I think it was called like Dance EJ or something like that. And that was just a really cool program where you can make your own music and all that sort of jazz, which I really, really enjoyed. Anyway, I can see that time is ticking. This is probably the main event for me. It actually comes with Thinking Things, Sammy's Science House, Time and Playhouse with Trudy, whatever she was called. They were just other very basic CD-ROMs, but again, as a kid, I just thought they were really cool about learning and all that sort of stuff. But it's also a demo to a couple of things. But the reason why my eyes lit up a little bit is because it has CivNet. And I could do a whole video on CivNet. Now, for those of you that don't know, it's basically Civilization, the original version 1.2, which basically meant it had better graphics, which it did if you compare it to the original, and you could play people online, which was a big thing in the day. You take it for granted nowadays, but back then it was like, oh my God. And even to this day, I play it on one of my retro builds or one of my retro laptops, and I just love it. I love building my own empire and running it and watching it grow and making peace deals and trade deals. And even to this day, even with all the newer Total War games and newer Civilization games, I still always go back to CivNet. Absolutely love it. It is probably one of my best games of all time. And the adventures. Oh my goodness, this is the Casper Brainy book, I think it was, which I believe was just like a story of the Casper film, which was quite cool. I did try to replay it a little while ago and I was a bit unsure if it quite holded the same nostalgia as I remember it, but it was quite cool. And Batman and Robin Cartoon Maker, and I'm sure there's quite a few of you out there that remember that, and that was absolutely brilliant. It was just so fun. Like me and my mate as kids, we used to make our own cartoons. We'd spend hours on it making all different scenarios, the bad guys trying to take over the world, and to be fair, some of them were quite good. I'm just speed rounding because I just realised like CD, and I'm not 100% sure what it is. If I just zoom it into the camera, there you go, the camera's going to pick me up again. I honestly can't remember what it is. I can't even pronounce it. Asterix language learn. Oh, there you go. It's language learning. That's probably why I didn't bother with it. But I do always remember how cool that CD was. CD-ROM, which is really cool. And then another sort of bit of software. Looks like from BT or something. So I'm not quite sure why I'd want that, but there you go. There's a lot in here. Carol Draw. Well, I think that's a drawing program, I believe. But I didn't really remember WordPerfect, for those of you that remember back in the day. So you had like WordStar, and then you had like the early Word later on Windows, and WordPerfect. And WordPerfect, I don't think that was Microsoft. I think it was a different company, but I might be wrong. But WordPerfect was just a different word processor, for those of you that don't already know. And that was always like the competition for Word, so it must have been made by someone else. Carol, what it says there. And I think I have actually used it. It was very similar, to be fair. It just did things a bit differently. I'm getting really warm now. Or if you're getting value so far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. We also have some affiliate links if you would like to support the channel that way. But we also have an awesome Facebook community, which is really cool. There's over 400,000 people where people share their games and retro builds and all that sort of jazz. Link to that also in the description. And please, as I said before, put in the comments below any of the games or software mentioned today. Please put in the comments below, share your memories. It'd just be really cool to hear. And this is a really cool CD, The Comic Zone with Sega Sega. I seem to remember that was a cool little cartoon, and you basically had to save the world. I'm going to be brutally honest. You got pulled into a comic and then you had to fight your way out of it. I was never very good at it, but I used to quite like it. And Echo the Dolphin, though I have played this version of Echo the Dolphin, for me Echo the Dolphin was more of a Sega game, and that's something I played when I was even younger. And another game that I hold dear, a great game. I'm sure many of those of you watching have probably heard of Echo the Dolphin. But yeah, there you go. But I have to say, of all those games and software that I've talked about today, CivNet definitely is the key. And in a moment, I'm going to leave you 2 end cards that I'm going to bring you even more value than this video. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a bit longer today. It's getting a bit warm, so I'm going to wrap up. But please check out more videos, check out the channel. See you in the Facebook community. And as always, you guys fly with the retro.